our group on LinkedIn, and we also post our user group sessions on the YouTube channel. And this is our amazing team led by Paresh, and I'm your host, Anuja. We have Mohit, Olga, Huen, Chin, and Sentil. Amazing team. And yes, I'm your host. Microsoft is our sponsor, because of which we can have all these sessions. And so, first speaker today is Marwa Obaid, and she's going to talk about education and AI. Um, so, over to you, Marwa. And actually,
That's a lightning talk, right? So
okay, yeah, it's going to be a short talk. And then we have Andy who's going to talk about Power BI. And then we have all the announcements for the future data events. But okay, I guess, Marwa, over to you.
Yes.
couple more
Hi,
slides, my
everyone.
friend.
Okay,
Three
all
more,
right. I thought we'll
three,
talk
four
about
more.
it later.
No. This is a
Okay.
good time to do it. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, of course, in November, we have the SQL Saturday Houston, and we have the pre-con events. So we have Brent Ozar talking about SQL Server performance, Microsoft Fabric by Ginger Grant, and Andy and Helen Well talking about Power BI. These are going to be full day sessions, and these are paid about $250 for each of those sessions. And SQL Saturday is a free session. Of course, SQLSaturday.com and DataSaturdays.com are the sites to visit to find out more about the future data events. Uh,
So this is
and
the future data driven, right? That is coming up this month. So
these are the pre-con sessions we have happening on November 7th. All right, over to Marwa.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'll give brief introduction about myself. I'm Marwa Ubaid. I worked as a research analyst for 2 years or 3 months in LECOM, Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. In that job, I analyzed data for medical research. I was applying statistical analysis by using SPSS. And, because it's education institution, so most of this data was about, about students and faculty members. So they were using the data, the results to get it published in journals. And two of those projects that I analyzed the data for has been published on medical journals. And then I worked as a visiting faculty in Gannon University in Pennsylvania in the Computer Information Science Department. And again, I was teaching, both grad and undergrad courses. Like, for example, I was teaching statistical analysis by using Python, or problem solving and coding by using Java, like requirement and project management and a couple other courses. And I recently moved to Houston, Texas, and I'm in the process of looking for a new opportunity. So I'm I'm very happy to meet you today. It's very nice to meeting you today, and I look forward to work with you and to accomplish our goal, like the group goal, and this wonderful group to bring new ideas and help the community. And today I'm going to talk about AI and education. So let me tell you why I chose this topic before starting my presentation. So recently in college, when I was working in Ghana, we were suffering from, the usage of AI by our students, because most of the students, unfortunately, they depend totally on AI. So for example, when we were giving them some assignments, instead of using, the technology or the tool to help them, understand the material or help them solving the problem, they were trying to copy paste the content without doing any effort. So for 2 years, we were, emphasizing that it's okay to use AI, but please use it to learn the skill, use it to help you solve the problem, use it to learn more about the topic, but don't just copy paste the content. So, every technology comes with the pros and cons all the time. We know that. And this is why I will start my presentation with some quotes about what are those risks or issues that we are facing in education while using AI. So you can see like AI applications in
You're not
education.
sharing your screen, Marwa.
Oh, sorry. I think I did that already. Okay, let me
We
try it
tested
again.
that, yeah, but we did not do it
Right.
after that.
Okay. I'm going to do it now. Okay, can you see it now, hopefully? Do you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you can see like AI applications in education pose ethical risks, right? Including the amplification of bias threats to data privacy and the risk of depending digital devices if access to AI technologies is not equitable, right? The introduction of AI in schools can intentionally reinforce existing inequalities, especially if systems are trained on biased data or if access to advanced technologies is uneven across regions. AI-driven systems, while powerful, risk reducing human agency in learning, narrowing the curriculum to what can be easily measured, and creating over-reliance on automated decision-making. And AI in education should be approached critically, as it carries the danger of replacing meaningful human relationships in teaching with algorithmic interactions, potentially undermining the social nature of learning. So, like most of the risks that we are, afraid of is uh, like the privacy of the user, information. So, for example, for our students, AI can collect information of the students and, build patterns of their usage. And another issue, like AI is not always accessible in all schools. So some schools can provide AI and some schools cannot. Like wealthy schools can access AI, other schools cannot, right? So we are going to talk about all of that. Um, and I'll start with um, okay. So I'll start with, as we know, we are right now in digital age. So what does that mean? We are transforming the learning in the digital age. And how does that happen? So digital age has, revolutionized teaching and learning, opening doors to new educational opportunities. We know that. But when it comes to artificial intelligence, it plays a pivotal role in the education. So AI-driven analytics optimize teaching strategies and provide real-time feedback. Intelligent tutoring systems and adaptive learning software help identify students' strengths and weakness. So AI education can help us, right, by providing feedback on what is the weakness and what is the strength of, of the user in general, and when it comes to the education of the students, right? Um, Digital age encourages collaborative and global learning. So we know that when it comes to AI, students can interact and connect with other students around the globe. So that is one of the benefits of using AI. So, like maybe we have like some students in USA can connect with the students in France, for example, and talk about a specific problem or specific project and exchange ideas. So as we see, like students connect with peers worldwide, participate in virtual classrooms, engage in projects beyond geographical boundaries, and that will lead leveraging digital technologies makes education more inclusive, flexible, and accessible. So these are the benefits of, of using digital technologies or, digital age and AI. So how AI can help in education? AI provides personalized learning experiences. So AI can analyze learning patterns, as I mentioned before, identify strength and weakness, delivers customized content for students to progress at their own pace. When it comes to the educators, how they can use AI or why AI is useful for educators. So AI can provide automated administrative tasks. So many administration, or administrative tasks can be done by AI. Like tasks that we used to do it every day, maybe many times a day, AI can help with that. For example, setting meetings, scheduling exams, things like that can be done by AI. Predictive analysis, intelligent tutoring systems. AI expand access to education globally, which we already mentioned. So students from remote or underserved areas can access high quality resources, breaks down barriers of location, language.
Marwa,
Yes.
1 minute.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sure.
Are you done or you still have a couple of slides to go? I said 1 minute to go.
Oh, 1 minute to go. Oh, sorry. Oh,
Okay.
sorry. I
Yeah,
thought
no
you
worries.
want me to stop. I
No,
thought you
no,
were
no.
saying
It's
to
my
stop.
bad. I
Okay.
should have been clear.
Yeah, that is fine. So yeah, I'll wrap it up so quick. So education, is evolving rapidly with artificial intelligence. Um, and AI enhanced teaching, learning, and administration, as I mentioned. So our objective will be explore the role, benefits, challenge, and future of AI in education. So let's start with what is AI in education. So AI, when it comes to education, is using intelligent computer systems and algorithms to enhance teaching, learning, and administration. That will involve technologies like machine learning, natural language processing, and data analytics. And you can see these are like examples of AI tools that can be used in the classroom. Like you can see like ChatGPT, etc., etc. Now, what are the applications of AI in education? Learning platforms, personalized learning, education use cases, and so on and so on. These are just, some examples. Now, again, what are the benefits then of AI in education? As we mentioned, personalized learning, 24/7 learning support, efficient administrative work, real-time feedback and analytics, accessibility and inclusivity, enhanced engagement. Some of the real world examples that we use every day. So there is the Duolingo adaptive language learning. I don't know if you are familiar with that, but you can learn any language by using, this AI tool. Coursera AI-driven course, recommendations, Gradescope, chatbots in universities, and etc. Now, the question will come, how can schools balance innovation with student data protection? Because as I mentioned before, like one of the concerns is how we can protect students' private information while they are using AI. Because we have, one of the challenges of using AI in education is the data privacy and security protection of students' data. So what are the risks? Data breach, unauthorized access, right? Misuse by third parties. And that will lead to the importance of encryption, secure storage, and transparent consent policies. Another question that we need to answer, what measures can educators take to reduce bias in AI-powered tools? Because another concern that we have is bias in AI models, fairness and inclusivity issues. So AI can reinforce stereotypes if trained on biased data. Marginalized groups may receive less accurate or unfair results. Need for diverse datasets and ethical AI development to solve the issue. And then we need to answer the question, in what ways can teachers maintain meaningful interaction while using AI tools? Because again, even for the teachers themselves, for faculty members, while using AI, we are reducing human interaction. Like when we mentioned the administration task, like we used to use a human. Human will, to interact and do those tasks. Same thing apply to the students. So for example, when we give
Hey,
them like a project,
Marwa, we
yes,
got to stop, okay? We gave you
okay,
10 minutes,
sure,
it's now 14, okay?
okay,
Sorry
all right,
about
okay.
that. Maybe if
No,
we
that
have
is
time in
fine.
the end, we will come back to this, okay?
Sure, sure,
But
yes, thank you.
can we have Andy, our featured speaker? And Marwa, please put off your video and the sounds, okay?
Do you mind if I just say the conclusion so quick?
Yes, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so conclusion will be AI has a transformative potential in education. The benefits of using AI in education, again, personalization, efficiency, accessibility, must address challenge, which means with those benefits, we need to emphasize on address the challenge that we just mentioned, which is ethics, privacy, equality. And the future will be human and AI collaboration in learning. So it's not only AI. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Marwa. That's
Yeah,
really nice.
yeah,
Cool.
thank you. Yes, I
Okay.
stop sharing. Yeah.
Go ahead, Andy. It's all yours, my friend.
All right. Hi, everybody. Right, I'm going to start sharing in a second. I'm covering an awful lot today in this session. And one of the things that'd be great as we go through, if anybody wants to ask a question, then please do. But maybe at the start of this, if anybody's got anything they would like to have answered or for me to look at and focus on while we go through, then that'd be cool. Anuja, you take these details, don't you, I believe? So if anybody wants to shoot any questions, then do it. And please, as we go through, if you've got any questions, then feel very free to go and ask. The plan for today is really just to go and do an overview of Power BI. And I know I've got a mixed audience here. So it's going to kind of be reasonably low level and cover the basics. One of the things that I do with my colleague Helen Wall, and Helen couldn't make today, was we train on Power BI. So a lot of the content that I'm going to be using today comes from my training course, which is called Power BI Liftoff Training. So something we do on a monthly basis in Houston. And of course, we're going to be doing it the day before the next SQL Saturday. Right, so on that note, any questions? Anuja will deal with them, I'm sure, read them out. Any questions as we go, please ask, and I'm going to just cover the basics. And I believe, Marwa, can you turn your camera off? I think Paresh just asked you to turn your camera off. Perfect. Love it. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Let's get sharing. So I'm going to move you over there. I'm going to move the slides there. And I'm going to share. All right. So just to intro me, and what I've got a mix of PowerPoint and I've got Power BI, Power BI Desktop, Power BI Service. And if we get time, we can look at some of the AI capabilities of Power BI as well. Just to introduce me, obviously you can tell by my strong Houston accent that I'm local. I mean, joking aside, I'm actually in Galveston, which is where I live, but work really around Houston. I run Clearly Solutions, so we're a Microsoft consulting partner. We do a lot of Power BI. We do data stack, we do Power Apps. So we do a mixture of building apps, integration and data work. But frankly, I think most of what we do is Power BI. Along with Helen, I also run, or we run rather, the Power BI user group for Houston. So hence that's how we got to know Paresh. So, very, very involved in the Power BI community. And coming out in the next couple of months is, on slide, thank you. This is the screen mock, so it looks a bit pixelated. But coming out in the next couple of months is financial modeling and reporting with Microsoft Power BI. So that should be out in about 3 months' time. It's available for pre-order on Amazon now. The purpose of this book is really to, it's probably not meant for most of the people that are going to be on this call. It's really meant for finance professionals that use Power BI within their work to become more proficient. So it's delivered to the point of view of the finance professional rather than the Power BI professional. But anyway, so that's going to be coming out very soon. Right, so that's the book. So let's just go and move on to Power BI overview. As I said, I'm using the Power BI lift-off slide, so hence a bit of lift-off branding, but it's just got a nice kind of pretty, inclusive overview of everything Power BI that I wanted to go and cover today. Anuja, are there any questions or anything, or any specific topics that I need to cover, or should I just keep on going?
Just keep going, my friend.
All right. Right, okay, so we start off with what is Power BI, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is and what it does. And I think maybe with this audience now, and I recognize a few of the names actually from the user group and some of the fabric sessions that we've done. And it's always something to go and get straight, because I think there's a few out there that Power BI is, Excel on steroids is one of my, I'm going to say least favorite comments about Power BI. There's confusion that it soups up Excel out there, and I really think it isn't. And I think one of the things that sets it aside from, well, many things are set aside from Excel, but one of the fundamentals, of course, is the fact that it has to work with structured data. And that's the fundamental for Power BI, and one of the things that really does set aside from Excel, especially in terms of the way it manages and works with data. To move on to Microsoft's view of what Power BI is. So Power BI is Microsoft's business analytics platform that helps you turn data into actionable insights. And I think that's really it. We take a lot of data quite often from SQL servers, but from Power Apps, from different applications, dare I say it, from Excel, which I'd rather avoid, but we do. And we turn it into data, but we try and make sure that the data it gets turned into is something which is actionable for the user. And it's a key question we look to discuss with users when we're trying to put together a Power BI chart and graph and visual, in that, does this tell a story? Does it help answer a question? Does it help you take an action? Even if doing nothing is an action, that's still an action. So, that's the way we try and really couch it. And when we're working with Power BI, can you make a decision as a result of the data you've got is a key thing. And, as I'm sure everybody on this call will appreciate, the job that we do, I spend most of my time on the left-hand side of this slide. So just working with lots and lots and lots of data. And, in my mind, I think I spend 90% working with data, structuring data, cleaning data, modeling data. We'll go through that today. And probably about 10% of the stuff that goes on the right. Because once I've done the 90% of getting the data in good shape, the side on the right is actually relatively easy, because everything is built and everything is built correctly. And, we see people interested in coming into and wanting to work with Power BI because they want to go and do data visualizations. Whereas actually, a small part of what we do is the visualizations. A big part of what we do is all the work to get us to the point of the visualizations. Right, so Power BI is actually two tools. So it is Power Query, it is Power BI. So, and I guess I'm hoping a lot of you have heard of Power Query. If not, it's actually part of Excel. It is an ETL tool, and I guess most of you know that, but if not, extract, transform, and load. So, Power Query in most instances, not all, but in most instances, Power Query is the way we get data into Power BI. And even if you just load data into Power BI, in most instances, not all, but in most instances, you're going through Power Query. So it's a fundamentally important part, and I'll show you it in a sec. Let me just go through a few more slides. I'm just going to go through some of the concepts of Power BI so you understand the overview, then we can look at some software. So it won't be lots and lots and lots of slides. Inevitably, when you've got two tools like this, we have overlap between the two. So, when you're working with both, you quite often have to go and, try and figure out what you want to do in one and what you want to go and do the other. When it comes to working with data, and if you think of Power Query being the gateway of data into Power BI, then I try and do actually as much as I can in Power Query as I can before it gets to Power BI. But there are times whereby you can do a similar job in both, like creating columns, for example, doing certain calculations you can do in both. But just understand when you're working with them that there is overlap, and you may get times whereby you have to think about, am I going to use this one or the other one? Another thing we talk about a lot is Power BI Desktop and Service. Now, Power BI Desktop is a developer tool that we work in as developers. It is largely, still mainly, a file-based application whereby we pull data into Power BI, we load it in or import it in, and then we work with it, and then we publish it to the Power BI service. So the broad difference is that Power BI Desktop is where developers work, and Power BI service is where the users interact with the data. So that's where we share dashboards, and that's where the users go to interact. One of the things that we try to avoid, and I'm hoping with an audience like we have today will really appreciate, we try and avoid people sending Power BI files around the organization, accessing it within Power BI Desktop and refreshing and updating and things like that, because as I'm sure most of you will probably appreciate, that is a recipe for a disaster within the organization in terms of people not having the right and most up-to-date data. And again, I'll look at both. We'll look at both Power BI Desktop and Power BI Service and Power BI Apps as we go through. So going forward, there's another Venn diagram here because there's still overlap between what you can do in Power BI Desktop and within Power BI Service. It's a slide that Helen put together. But once you've published data from Power BI Desktop into the Power BI Service, and in either you can build reports, visualizations, you can look at security, filters, bookmarks, question and answer, R visuals, and sharing. So, and there are certain things you can only do in one and the other. But just to go, just really clarify on that, Power BI Desktop is a developer tool, Power BI Service is for users. If you try and keep those two divided as much as possible, you will be in good shape. Okay, so as for data, and obviously data is the lifeblood of what we do with Power BI. 100 plus and growing data sources, and that's excluding the fact that you can go and get data via APIs. But when you're working with Power BI, one of the things that you'll need to go and do is to say, where do I want to go and get data from? I love it if it's SQL because I know it's generally well structured. I'm generally a little bit concerned if it's Excel or SharePoint, for example. But we see a lot of Excel and we see a lot of SharePoint, unfortunately. But that's just the way of things. Now, bear in mind, when working with Power BI, you can have many data from one Power BI model or one Power BI environment. You can have many data sources all within one. So, it's quite common, for example, to go and get structured information from a finance application, but then get budget data or trend or forecast information rather in the form of a spreadsheet. So quite common to go and see both and to go and see many data sources. And again, I'll come on and show you that as we go through. So there's actually four. I'm going to come on to the fourth in a second. But in general, and we think about just Power BI, three main ways that we connect to data and how we work with data. The first one is the import method. Now, as the name suggests, Power BI goes to the data source, brings the data back locally into Power BI into that file. I make up a number, 95% of implementations out there are using Power BI and using import. And the reason for that is that it's incredibly responsive. It's just quick. You know, you can have tens of millions of rows within a Power BI model, and it is lightning fast. So, you know, users like that, users want it. You also have the benefit of, you know, of being able to go and manipulate the data and work with the data using Power BI's language, which is DAX, which stands for Data Analysis Expressions. So import is the default of what we go for, and then what we need to do with the data source, of course, is go and refresh on a periodic basis. I'll come back to how many and thoughts around that. The next method is direct query. So direct query is when Power BI doesn't store the data locally, but on every occasion it pings the data source to go and bring the data back, to go and run the query, and to go and show the visuals to the user. It happens where, for example, if you want live data, that'll be a time when you'll use direct query. If you've got a lot of data, you might want to use direct query because there are limits on model sizes within Power BI. So, you know, they're the main type of uses we get for direct query. The downside of direct query is obviously you can probably appreciate, you know, it is that bit slower because every time you're changing something, you're pinging the data source and bringing the data back, and there's less calculation and computation you need to do. So if you're using direct query and you want calculations and measures and things like that, then you're going to need to go and do that at the data source as much as possible because there's only a limited amount you can do within Power BI. The next one down, I'm going to come on to actually the fourth as we go and look at Fabric, is live connection. So live connection is when Power BI connects to analysis services within a SQL environment. A lot of IT organizations quite like doing this particular model because you're getting Power BI to go and connect to a tabular model. And of course, you know, calculations and measures and everything can be built within that model. It is that bit quicker than direct query, I must admit. We don't do an awful lot of it. I must admit, for what we do, we tend to do more import, but there are certain organizations that tend to really prefer it. But that's how we connect to our data sources and get data in, of course, and that can be many. So just to go through, it's important. I'm going to go through some details here, and especially I think for a SQL audience, it's quite important to go through some of this. So when talking with users and we're working with users, import is the most common method. Let's say data is imported locally, stored in a PBIX file, that's the extension, and then modeled with Power BI Desktop. Because it's in memory, means it's fast, it's optimized, it's compressed, so it's great to work with. When you've got data and you're working with import, you can refresh that data up to 8 times with a pro license. I'll come on to licensing in a second, or up to 24 times to the dedicated or premium per user, the 24-hour period. On this one, I mean, for most users, you know, daily refreshes are absolutely fine. It's all they need. And what you tend to find is that when you're working with financial users, the daily updates are great. They're more than happy with that. Some only want monthly updates for certain reports. And then the more operational you get, the more they want live. We've got a number of implementations whereby we refresh every 2 hours throughout the working day, and that tends to work really well. And what you can do, you can back that up with some direct query reports, which really give that live view. And what you'll generally find is that most users will go for import. For this to work, the desktop file, the PBIX, is published from Power BI Desktop to the service for users to go and consume. And then, as I say, 98.713, completely made up statistic. Import is the best option. Most people will go and use that. So direct query makes a connection to the data source, queries the data directly every time, direct query. Works really well for large data sets because refresh becomes impractical and file sizes exceed what can be done with Power BI. The PBIX file, which is your desktop file, which developers still can work on, only contains the metadata of the models. So, for security concerned people, that may be a good thing. Direct query can be slow and it's limited with its use of DAX. And one of the things we do recommend if you are using direct query is that you pre-aggregate your data at the database level for those deployments, just to go and speed things up. And, because it tends, experience says it's the high transactional volume organizations that need to go and do this, whereby you could have, retailers, for example, whereby you could have tens of thousands of transactions in a day. So pre-aggregation actually is a good method. Another thing you can do actually, although I never find it works that well, as a composite model, whereby you can actually use import and direct query together. I don't believe they coexist particularly well, but theoretically it can be done. And then finally, your live connection. That's a direct connection to Power BI Desktop from a tabular model. And that actually can be within the Power BI service. It can be another Power BI model, obviously, a SQL Server analysis services. Conceptually, it's very similar to direct query, of course, but it is that bit quicker because you can be retrieving data in memory. And as I say, it is preferred by some organizations that want more control over the data and the calculations and measures and everything else. I'm sure a lot of you see this as an issue when you're working with data and you're working with users especially. So this whole concept of live, it's a big talking point when working with Power BI. We come across it all the time, and for most implementations, it tends to become a discussion. And we try and get users working on the basis of daily updates, if not, every couple of hours throughout the working day, if we can, and try and get them off live data. And one of the things that we find is that the cost to get to live data gets more and more and more expensive. You have to go and do more. You have to implement more. You have to think about, architecturally how you're gonna do it. So, live can be an issue. I've never had a situation yet, and I say yet deliberately, whereby refreshes every 2 hours throughout the working day aren't enough to go and work with. So again, I mention it because it comes up all the time, and again, I'm sure as SQL professionals on this call will appreciate that. Right, Power BI and Fabric. So Fabric is Microsoft's end-to-end data analytics platform. Power BI is a component of Fabric now, although probably in terms of usage, the most significant component. Fabric has been available for just over almost a year and a half now, actually. It's getting on that long. And for the most part, Fabric actually didn't introduce anything particularly new in terms of capability. There's a lot of Azure capabilities that you'll see there. But what it did do is it made it work seamlessly, is probably going a bit too far, but reasonably seamlessly together. Fabric as a whole works very nicely together. And I think that was one of the, the big objectives of Fabric and getting it out there. And of course, Power BI is the business intelligence front end of that. Fabric is, it is growing significantly. Actually, it's been incredibly popular. I think one of the reasons is that certain functionalities you can only get in Fabric. So we will look at that as we go through and cover licensing, because it's an important part. Right, so it's Fabric. I'm only going to, again, I'm limited on time, so I'm only going to go through these things relatively quickly. And if anybody's got questions on anything in particular, please ping the group. Anuja will let me know. Okay, so licensing with Power BI. So you can get a free account for free, of course. And you can do an awful lot with that. You can do pretty much everything within Power BI Desktop. You can work with Power Query. You can actually publish to a workspace, but as soon as you want anybody other than yourself to go and look at your dashboard, then you need to be licensed. So with Power BI, you effectively pay to share. Okay. So the minimum tier for Power BI licensing is Power BI Pro. And that's most of what we deal with. Most of what we do is Power BI Pro, and most people out there on Power BI Pro. And it is, for the vast majority of people, great. It does everything they need it to go and do. So that's $14 per user per month, paid yearly. If you want to pay monthly, I think it's another 20% on top. I can't remember exactly, somewhere around that, but that's paid on a yearly basis. I think the main consideration, main things that come up with Power BI Pro when you talk to customers and needs. So sometimes model size. So with your desktop file that you're working with, that model can only be up to a gig. So you might want to think, if you are deploying, if you've got anything close to a gig, you might want to think of growth. And then the other thing is the number of refreshes you can do in that 24-hour period, which is 8 with Pro. But as I said, I think it's 5 for most people. So the next tier up is Power BI Premium per user. So it's 24 per user per month. And you can have, again, it's got it here, bigger model sizes, more frequent refreshes. I mean, they're kind of like the two things that generally come up. There are a number of other things in there actually, but they're the two things that come up. And then after that, let me actually just go to, I'm going to show you Fabric pricing very quickly. 2 secs. Just make sure I put Microsoft in there so I don't get garments and things like that. So if you want to go and consider Fabric on top of that, let's go to here. Fabric is a different pricing model. So Fabric is a compute capability, or works on a consumption basis. So you choose an SKU, you have capacity units, which are a rather ethereal concept, but in terms of compute power, 4 capacity units is twice 2, 8 twice 4, blah blah blah. Sure, you get the whole idea there. And it works on, it works on the basis of, while this thing is running, you're getting charged. So if you work, just pay as you go. So if you just go and get an F2, the minimum SKU, for example, and you just leave this thing running, you're going to pay about 280 to 80 per month. There is also hourly pricing, so that same thing is 36 cents per hour. So we do see customers with this that, mainly working in a single time zone, will up the capacity, down the capacity as and when they need it. The other thing you can do with Fabric is you can pay what's called reservation pricing, which means it just you just leave it running. But let's go back to monthly. You get about a 41% savings, but you pay in advance. So choice between monthly payments or an annual payment, but you get the saving there. For pricing wise and for Power BI, an important level is here when we get to F64. Now, F64 means that your Power BI users are included. Anything lower than F64, you need to buy the licensing for your Power BI users. Remember, Fabric is an analytics platform. F64 onwards, those Power BI users are included. You'll still need to buy a few for developer purposes, but just have that in mind. And there are pricing calculators online that you can go to, whereby it's a case of, okay, well, I've got X number of Power BI users with this type of licensing. When am I better, to go and think about a Fabric license as opposed to Power BI? So that's Fabric licensing. Okay, so move on to that in a second. So Power BI updates, of course, everything's got to be updated all the time. Power BI is updated on a monthly basis. So if you want to see Power BI updates, Patrick LeBlanc of GuianaCube fame is doing it at the moment. So 11 updates on an annual basis. Comes out around the third week of the month. We generally get it for the Power BI user group. And you get some months which are more significant than others. And January is generally missed, so hence the white block there. But updates on a monthly basis, and again of varying significance. You'll get some which are much bigger than others. I haven't really talked about it. I haven't talked about it at all, in fact. So Power BI Report Server is an on-prem variant of Power BI. Certain organizations have to have on-prem. Obviously, we'll use it or for security reasons or other reasons want on-prem. In general, it's about 6 months behind Power BI. And those updates come out, from here, it's 3 per year. So just so you know that. Right, so moving on. Let's just go for a quick crash course in terminology in terms of some Power BI concepts. So DAX is data analysis expressions. That is the language of Power BI. M is mashup. So when you're using Power Query, you're writing in M. That said, you're generally clicking more than anything. Vertipack, that is the optimization engine within Power BI that makes it go so fast. You can see this is for people that are new to it because I've got ETL and something called SQL, whatever that is. So tabular is the modeling that we do. Workspaces, so workspaces are when we're in the Power BI service, how we organize ourselves in a crude way, think of them as folders. I'll show you. Power BI gateways are something that we sometimes have to deploy. So quite often if we've got on-premise SQL and we need to go and work with that, we will need a Power BI gateway. That will need to be set up. Prim user, I've talked about. And then the final two, RLS, you probably recognize that actually, but row-level security. So a security model within Power BI, which lets you go and filter so certain users can see certain things. And then Power BI apps are the main deployment method that we use these days. All right, so I'm just going to see if there's anything. Okay, let's go and have a look at Power BI. Anuja, are there any questions at all, or is everybody completely silent?
There was a question just regarding the Power BI workshop. The question was if they're going to be hands-on activity. I said yes, but it looks like the person has left the chat.
Okay. Yeah, so the majority of it is hands-on. So the stuff I've just gone through, that's the first 30 minutes of what we do. Okay, so just looking at, sorry, anything else, Anuja? Sorry, was that everything?
Yeah, that was all.
Okay, what time is my finish time for this, by the way? So I know how long I've got to go for.
You can go at 10 past 8 or 12 past 8, yeah. Because of the session by Marwa.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is Power BI Desktop. As we can see, so this is the application that you download. This is where you will start by, as I say, getting data and loading data into Power BI. This is all just demo training data that I'm going to show you today. So it's all pretty simple stuff. And as you can see, that I've just obviously gone for SQL as an example. Is asked my server database and am I going to do import or direct query, for example. So in terms of how Power BI works, we have a ribbon along the top. Down the side, we have various different views and how we work with our data. I'll come back to that in a second. And then over to the right-hand side, we can see our tables of data. We can go and create tables where I've got my measures. Here is where we go and select the particular, visualizations that we may want to go and use. So if I want to go and change that, it's probably a really bad idea, but if I want to go and change that to a column, told you it's a bad idea, then I can go and do that there. So we can go and switch visuals and have different types of visuals in there. Here within our visuals, if I go and click on a particular visuals, this is the data that we have from our tables that we're using for our visuals. And then here we have filters. So we have two types of filters. We have filters which we can go and put on the page, or sorry, for a visual, for a page, for a group of pages, and we have filters that we include as UI operation effectively for our users. So, if I just go and, click there, I can go and filter. And, we put a lot of these things called slicers on for users on the basis of it gives them the ability to go and interact. As you can see, Power BI is very interactive. If I go and click on one thing, it filters everything else. So if I want to go and look at North American hydration packs, then obviously it goes and shows me very little there, but it goes and shows me the data relative to that, and all of the data I've got here is filters. So yeah, when working with Power BI, I generally kind of think of it as an app, and I'm trying to think about how I'm building functionality for users to go and interact with. So that's where I want to go and get to. So if I go and look at what we actually go and build, so I'm going to go to model view. Now I've got a very simple model here. Hopefully most of you are going to recognize this as a star schema. So what we have, we have a fact table in the middle. So this is obviously our transactions, sales transactions. Then we have dimension tables all the way around it. And I've got a separate table for my list of measures. Good practice, I say only practice, it should be really, for Power BI is that when we are joining our tables, that we work with one-to-many connections. And I'm sure you'll all appreciate that from the SQL world, but it is very common when looking at individuals that have kind of just started working with Power BI that you see many-to-manys, you see a lot of many-to-manys, you see one-to-ones, you see, everything connected that could be connected, and quite often done quite badly. And of course, what that does, that introduces ambiguity to our model. And then finally, when we're working with our data here, we can go and see a tabular view of our transactions. As you can see, it's incredibly quick. I've got so this is not crazy, 121,000 rows, but if I want to go and change the sort of that, obviously that goes and happens very quickly. So we can work with data here. We can do certain things in Power BI in terms of adding columns and changing the types and whatever else. Where most of the work gets done in Power BI, I'll come back to Power Query in a second actually, is here, which is with our measures. So this is where we are actually going writing code, statements, DAX, data analysis, expressions in terms of what we want to do. So here's a profit percentage. I'm doing a division of sales minus cost over sales. And as you can see, as I go and click on those, it gives me the various DAX calculations that I've built. If I come back to here, I'm just going to take you into Power Query very quickly, which I probably should have started with.
Andy, we do have a question from Chin.
Yes.
The question is, users can viewers view pre-set up reports, dashboards? Can users also make ad hoc reports from the server, like self-service reports?
Yes. Yeah, so they do that within Power BI service. Let me come on to that in a second. I'll do this quickly. I'm just mindful of time. So I'll show this and I'll come on to that in a second. But Jin, yeah, I'll show you that quickly. So I've got into Power Query now. So this is our ETL tool. You can see, obviously, it looks a bit different in the terms of the way it works. With Power Query, we've got, whoops, sorry, where are you? You're there. With Power Query, we've got our data source over on the left-hand side. And then we've got the steps that we apply on the right-hand side. It's great on the basis that you can see all of your ETL steps, so you can undo them, you can go back, change them if you need to. This is where we do data cleanup. So what we do, I mean, I'll do a lot of things like I'll come in, I'll generally go to a sales table and try and get rid of, if I've got 10 years of transactions, I'll get it down to 3. If I've got 300 columns of data, I'll try and get that down to 20, and generally I can. I'll do things like get the naming, sort the naming out of columns to make sure they're the right data type. I'll do those types of things in here and get my data in good shape. And bear in mind, with our columns, we're trying to make sure our columns have got very human readable names as we're preparing data for AI these days. So there's some of the things that we do. I'm not going to go on through it exhaustively. So let me just come out of there. So bear in mind, obviously, the process is that we go, obviously, data goes generally an import method, goes via Power Query into Power BI, and then we start working with the data, making sure that our data is modeled correctly. Once we've done that, actually, two things, I'll come back to these because everyone will see the AI bit, but I will come back to it. So the first thing that obviously we're going to want to do to get this in front of our users is to go and hit publish. So I've published this already. I'm not going to go through the process. So if we want to go and save it, and then we publish to a workspace. So I have one workspace that I prepared earlier, which obviously looks the same as that. So it's the same thing. So this is now Power BI, obviously in a browser. It is the Power BI desktop we've published for our users to go and use. It is in a workspace right now. Chin, to answer your question, if I go to my workspace, now let me go back a step. Most users don't work through workspaces. They go through apps. Workspaces are kind of becoming, dev and test and prod environments now. But for those users that you do want to go and, build things. So with here, if I just go to new item, for example, then I can go and build a new report. So I'm going to publish a model. I don't want to auto create. So create a blank report. So what I've done very quickly, sorry, I know we're up against time here, but what I've got now is a blank canvas using exactly the same set of data we just looked at. So for example, if I want to go and look at my total sales, for example, that quickly goes and does that. If I want to go and do with a little bit of detail, so if I want to do it by country, then I can go and do that. And you can see how users can drag these data elements using visualizations quickly into the canvas and go and build their own reports. What they can't do is they can't change measures, they can't build new measures. But where it's great is for those users that have got enough, I guess, curiosity and capability to be able to go and build their own reports. I don't see many user customers actually doing this, I must admit, but it's there, it's doable if you want to go and do it. So hopefully that answers the question about getting users to go and access. I'm going to come back to that. So a few other things that we need to think about when don't save, when we are publishing our data. So we've got obviously the reports, we've got data models here. So this is where we set things up like refresh, for example. So if I go into here, I don't think it'll be set up, but if I go into my settings and I go to, that should be all right. Where are you? Refresh. That I can turn on my refresh here. So this is just a fundamental thing that anybody working with Power BI will do. If I do that, it will do it daily. I can go and add more times if I want to go and do that. So that's kind of one of the fundamentals that you'll go and do. So let me just come out of here very quickly and we can go and see our reports in here. A number of years ago, users would come into here and this would be the normal place for users to come in and see data. And we're kind of moving away from that, and what we're moving to is Power BI apps. So a Power BI app is, I guess, a safer way of deploying Power BI out to users, in that they can interact with the app, but there's less that they can break, as maybe an unfair way of putting it, but I don't know. But this is the same thing again in a Power BI app. Where it's great is this is another one that we've been working with on the book actually. But what you can do, you can very quickly and easily just go and step through pages and look at various things in the app. So the deployment preference actually is apps these days. So, and if I come back to that, let me just kind of come out of here very quickly. I'm going to show you. So what we're doing with apps is what we're just working with setting out the content we need with the app. But one of the important things we do, what's worth sharing, is it's got this concept called audiences. And I don't have it set up here because this is demo, but what you can do with this is you can set different audiences of different reports. So you can have one app, but you can have different people seeing different reports within the app. And on top of that, you can have row level security, which obviously goes and governs what people can see within the data structure. So that's an important thing that that we're doing in the way we roll out. Now, I'm going to quickly end on AI because it's the thing that comes up all the time. So hopefully, I think I've got it in. Oh no, sorry. Let me come out of here. Workspaces. Go to you. Continue. Right. So when we looked very briefly, I realize I'm going through this at breakneck speed, but we can see within Power BI that we've got these two buttons here. So Copilot and Prep Data for AI. If you want to go and use AI with Power BI, then you'll be interacting here. But one of the things you will absolutely need is fabric capacity. So quickly, I'm going to go back to here and show you the workspace settings. Hopefully this is the one I got set up correctly. Yeah. So what we can see against this workspace is that we've got fabric capacity against it. And if I go to a different workspace, we can see, there you go, that one probably hasn't got it. Workspace settings, license info, there you go, just license info pro. So a workspace needs fabric capacity to go and do AI. And as such, your semantic model needs to have published to that workspace as well. So hoping this knows where it last published to. When I hit that, it's going to, there you go, it does. So there's a number of steps we need to go through when we're going to work, when we want to go and work with AI in Power BI. When I say AI, it's Microsoft's own private ChatGPT 5 now that it goes and things out to. We need to do a number of things. So we need to go and simplify our data schema. And one of the things that we're finding with data and with AI is the simpler you can make it, the better and the more chance you've got of success. So what we look to go and do is to remove anything the AI may not need. So IDs, for example, come out, SKUs come out, whatever else. So we remove a lot from the model. The other thing that we look to go and do is continue, is set up what we call verified answers. So it should be verified questions in a way, but what it means is when users ask certain questions of the data, where do you want to send the users? So if users say, show me total sales by country, then what the things we want to go and do is set up a verified answer here, which says, and it'll do it for me. So if somebody says, what are the total sales by country, apply, send them to that particular visual. Okay. So, and then the final thing we do when we're prepping, we just give it instructions. So this is just text-based, and you'll do things like if users ask for sales data without a time frame, ask them a time frame, for example. So there'll be all kinds of things users will do, but you'll actually want to get more from them to give more context to the AI, and you can give the AI instructions here for how to go and work. So once you've gone through that and set this up, then your users will be able to, and I can do it there actually, hopefully I'm in the right place, yeah, will be able to Copilot, go through, and then just using natural language, we'll be able to go and ask questions of the data. So what is the top performing country, for example? And what this will be doing is it'll be checking the instructions we've given it, probably not the instructions I just gave it on the basis that I didn't update, but what it's come back with and said is we can see the United States is the top performing country, total sales of you go 63 million, 63 million. So what this is doing, this is allowing users to interact with data using natural language. One thing I will say about it is test it thoroughly. So what I've found that we're doing with this is we're going backwards and forwards between the model and the prompt, the model, the prompt, model, the prompt. And, you know, what it will do is things like, here's a great example I did a couple of weeks ago, prep data for AI. I had an example whereby it was adding something up, and there you go. What Copilot did effectively is the IDs were numeric. So when it came to asking about sales data, Copilot was actually looking at the numeric IDs and adding those up. So it will do some strange things. For example, if you've got multiple dates, I would actually just try and make sure you've got one date or as few dates as possible, because, you know, it will probably potentially go and find the wrong date. I've seen that whereby it's returned data and I've not been able to add it up, and I realized that, you know, it's sales data for a month, and when I looked and realized it used the wrong date, then it all made sense. So one of the things you'll find yourself doing, as I say, is just going backwards and forwards in terms of seeing how the model responds, and then adjusting via, you know, the mechanisms I've just shown you. And one of the things actually I've found that I've really have had to do is making sure I've got users involved at an early stage to understand the kind of questions they would ask. And, you know, for most of the reports, and if I think of this as a sales report, for example, I've been doing this for so many years, I can tell you what a user, within 90% accuracy, I can tell you what a user's going to want. With AI, I can't, because I don't know the type of questions they're going to ask. So getting users involved really early, we found really important, this to go and make it successful. That is a whistle-stop tour. And come in a few minutes early, so I'm hoping to leave some time for some questions and anything anybody else might want to know.
Hey, thanks, Andy. Okay, so guys, anybody wants to ask a question, they're too lazy to type, let me know. I can go ahead and make you the presenter so that you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, but this is really fabulous. And I did reach out to the guy, Anuja, who left, Usman. I reached out to him and I gave him the answer. So,
Thank you.
Because I think what is a good percentage of insights turn into action? So she's asking, I mean, is there like a norm or standards of amount of data that is actually converted into action, or insights that are converted to action? My favorite answer to that is, like, Zero Dark 30, the movie, in which that woman, I forgot her name, Maya, she has all the data that is required by the politicians to take action to attack bin Laden, but they don't. So no matter what beautiful Power BI we give them, I think it is very tough. Chin, I hope that answers your question. So Sheila is asking, does using a SQL stored procedure as the source limit the usage in any way? I'm not sure I understand the question. Sheila, would you like to come online and answer that, or question? I can make you a presenter and you can unmute yourself. Give me 1 sec. I'm old. Hi, Olga. Okay. So Sheila, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Data tab at the right as choices. I've never seen it, Sheila. So just to answer the question, data tab at the right or choices. I've I mean, so SQL views, yes, we get tables, we get views. Stored procedures, no. I've not seen it. Provide any free resources we can use to, I take it, learn Power BI. Loads online. So if you go onto YouTube, so Microsoft have got resources. If you go to YouTube, then I'm going to do a search on Power BI. So Guy in a Cube, so Adam and Patrick, both Microsoft employees in Houston. They're fabulous. If you go to, I think, data training with Baz is another really good one. Marco and Alberto SQL BI, although not a great starting point, but good when you're into it. Yeah, if you just do a search for learning Power BI and just start getting into some YouTube. YouTube, I think, is a really good place to go and do it. But Microsoft have got some resources as well. So yeah, hopefully, Marva, that was answered it.
Yep, thank you.
Olga, do you want to unmute yourself? Sorry, just so. So Sheila, so do you want me to
I don't know why she didn't unmute. Yeah.
By keeping queries in SQL versus writing queries here, we get the advantage of the. Yeah, no, look, and Sheila, to the point. Look, I mean, you know, as far upstream as you can do the work with your data is generally the best place to go and do it. You know, and you know, if you can do measures and whatever else. Sorry. Oh, sorry, Paresh, I think you muted yourself. But yeah, just to finish that, I mean, so as far upstream as you can do it, absolutely go for it. I mean, just most of the time when we're working, you know, we're working with, you know, an off-the-shelf application or cloud application whereby we, you know,